the way our body looks are a really bad representation of how healthy or fit we are. The fitness industry is definitely kind of one of the biggest culprits of making people feel shit. You're starving yourself, you're over-exercising in order to achieve this. There's a lot more bad coaches out there making a lot of money by scamming people. I just don't think we should ever be eating back exercise calories.
Hey guys, and welcome back to It's Pretty Simple, a podcast about fitness, nutrition, and fat loss. I'm your host, Nikita, and I'm here to help you make your journey just a little bit more simple. Today on the show, we have a guest with us. We have Michael Ulloa. Am I saying that right?
Ulloa, it's close enough. It's a very bizarre surname to say.
Ulloa.
Ulloa, yeah. So it's Spanish. The double L is like a J sound. So it's a bit of
Okay.
a, yeah.
I thought so, but then I was like, no, you're from the UK. Do you have Spanish blood?
Yeah, my dad is from La Coruña, it's like the very northwest coast of Spain. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Well, I saw that you were in Valencia for the half marathon last year. I'm actually in Valencia.
Oh, are you? So one of my favorite cities in Spain. Yeah, I love it. We at some point, me and my wife would love to live in Spain, and Valencia's kind of always up there at the top of my list.
It's
Yeah.
a nice city. It's not too big. It's not too small. There's not that much tourism. It's really nice.
Yeah, no, I do like it, and it beats the weather in Scotland anyway.
For sure. I mean, today is a bit cloudy, but otherwise it's quite sunny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
Awesome. Well, guys, Michael is a personal trainer and he's a nutrition coach who is known for his no bullshit approach on fitness and nutrition. And he cuts through all the nonsense that we see online. And that was one of the reasons I actually started following Michael. And I just love the content that he puts out. And I'm pretty sure you get a lot of shit for the stuff that you post, right?
Yeah, unfortunately so. Yeah, I do that weird thing of sitting in a space in the fitness industry that doesn't really agree with anyone. Like I don't have a camp, right? So I have no loyalties there. So I will stick to the research and I'll happily call out anyone who's trying to mislead or kind of misinterpret information to make money from other people. So yeah, I tend to annoyingly upset quite a lot of people. So
Well, I mean, I think what you're doing is super important. Like, I think the fitness space in the online world has kind of lost control right now. And there's just way too much information out there. Most of
mhm,
it is just complete bullshit. Somebody reads like one research paper, just reads the top of it and
mhm,
sees, the title and then decides that, this is what it is
mhm,
without actually looking into the research. And then they just put it out there and they
mhm.
stand by it. And I mean, yeah, people are making money out of that. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, you can find a research paper to back up any claim, and that's the problem. But whether it's a good quality research paper is a completely different thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough out there, and I think it gets harder for people like you and me who are just following the most sustainable approaches possible.
Hmm.
There's nothing extra. There's no fad diets. There's no supplementing. There's none of that. It's just about creating a good lifestyle. But
Hmm.
then people think that we don't know as much as other people who are throwing out all these research papers, and it's kind of like it's unnecessary.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, making a living, excuse me, with really quite boring health advice, right? We have to find ways to make our content and our messaging a little bit more exciting to match up to the wild claims we see on social media, but there's some good coaches out there doing it, there are some good ones. There's a lot more bad coaches out there making a lot of money by scamming people, but I strongly believe that I'm doing it the right way. It might take a little bit longer to reach the amount of people that I want to reach, but we just slowly plug away, right?
Well, I think you are doing a great job. Well,
Thank you.
before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about your background? So, how did you get into the fitness industry?
Sure. So I worked as an occupational therapist before moving into the fitness industry. I did that for like four-ish years before realizing that I didn't really want to be doing it long term. So my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, were doing long distance. I lived like Brighton, south coast of England. She lived in Edinburgh. So I thought I'll move up to Edinburgh and do something fun for a year whilst I figure out what I want to do with my life. And I'd always been really into fitness. I'd done a lot of the kind of anatomy and physiology background and the research paper background through my degree. So I quickly trained as a personal trainer. And yeah, 10 years later, here I am still doing it. So I started off kind of regular in-person coaching. I ran an in-person personal training business for like 4 years, had a few coaches working for us. And then my social media just started to slowly take off and I had people reaching out from all over the world wanting to work with me. And I thought, well, well, why not? Hey, and this was kind of really early days of online personal training, so kind of found my feet slowly with it, and then COVID hit, and the whole fitness industry shifted to moving online, and I was kind of just set up, ready to go, really, and I've not looked back. So all my business now is completely online. I've worked with people in over 25 different countries, and I kind of split my time. Half of it is coaching people one to one, and then the other half is social media, content creation, podcasts, speaking, writing for magazines, that kind of thing. And yeah, I truly feel like I've got the best job in the world. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hmm.
My biggest nightmare is creating content for social media, but it comes with the job, doesn't it?
It does, it does. And I also find the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And it's kind of really cheesy to say, but I remember when I first started creating content, I look back at it now and it was awful, really underconfident. It really wasn't good. But yeah, it's like going to the gym, right? It's the reps. If you get the reps in, you slowly build the confidence, you build the skill, and you finally find the way to present your message in a way that you think will resonate and you think will help people. And it's I now love it. I absolutely love social media. If for whatever reason coaching completely crashed and burned, I would move into kind of some sort of social media role, because I do really enjoy it. I love that you can reach a lot of people in one go. I do a little bit of speaking in person, but I've always just really enjoyed the online coaching space and the online content creation. It's fun. It's a challenge, but it's yeah, it's
It's
just like
great.
pieces of a puzzle, right? You just got to try and find what works
Yeah,
and
and
keep
you're
going.
quite creative. I think this is where I get stuck. My creativity is like I have a message to put out, but the creativity is just not there. But we're getting there slowly, a little bit
Practice.
more.
That's all it is. Get
Yeah.
the reps. Just many, many reps. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, you are known for calling out fitness myths. So what are some of the biggest myths that drive you crazy that are still going on right now?
God, I think all my job is, even I mean, you probably find this when you're working with clients, it's constantly being like, no, that's not true. We shouldn't do this. So the kind of list of myths are endless, from kind of carbs are bad for us, carbs make us fat, like don't eat in the evening because you're going to put on body weight. And then most of the myths usually circle around fat loss or putting on body fat, because that tends to be what most people reach out to the fitness industry for. The one that I always say, I sometimes I'll be asked this question, and the one that I always really like to make a point of saying is that the way our body looks are a really bad representation of how healthy or fit we are. The fitness industry will constantly glorify a certain way that we all have to look, and that is the only way that you can be healthy and happy. And it's complete nonsense. Like, healthy and fit bodies come in all shapes and sizes. So I strongly will champion this message as much as I can to show people that, yes, of course, you can look like that in order to be fit and healthy, but fitness and health can look so many different ways. So stop forcing things. If that kind of fitness body ideal is an absolute slog, you're starving yourself, you're over exercising in order to achieve this, then I would say that it's pretty much a sign that it's probably the way that your body's not supposed to look. So the way that we approach health, the way we approach fitness and nutrition needs to be unique to you. So stop trying to kind of find these cookie cutter guides that everyone else is following, because it's just never going to work long term.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that I really love about you, and that's one of the reasons I followed you. Is when I saw a post of you saying, like, just like if we're in the fitness industry and we are coaches, it doesn't mean that we need to be walking around with a six pack and being
Hmm.
completely ripped. And
Hmm.
and I think this is still out there. People think that if they find a coach who looks insanely fit and jacked up or ripped, then they're going to get the same results as the
Hmm.
coach. I still feel a bit like sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, ugh, I
Yeah.
should be ripped. But I mean, I'm running on 19% body fat. I don't think I can go anything lower. And I don't have a six
Yeah.
pack. I
It's
don't have
so
a six
funny,
pack.
but I think it's really important for coaches to vocalize that and highlight that, because I think that a lot of people looking from the outside into the fitness industry think that coaches are immune to it and they have their shit together, when most of us don't. Like, I know I'm certainly not immune to kind of like the body dysmorphic type feelings, or feelings of potential inadequacies compared to other coaches, because, oh, maybe I'm not as big or I'm not as lean as them. But it doesn't mean anything. Like, it truly doesn't mean anything. Like, most of the absolute crap advice I see on social media is from people who have society's most kind of desirable, I'm using air quotes as I say that, desirable physiques. And the fitness industry constantly glorifies like looking healthy rather than actually being healthy. So I think the more coaches we have there standing up and championing that point, I think it's so powerful. I think if people realize what it really took for a lot of these trainers to look this way, they would want absolutely nothing to do with it. Whether it was kind of over exercising, over restriction, taking steroids, whatever it is, it's just so much nonsense goes into achieving that physique. that is everyone looks at and thinks that must be really healthy, when in reality
Mm.
it's just not. It's just not at all.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's taken me a while. I didn't used to post any videos of me like with my sports bra. I'd always
Hmm.
keep a t-shirt on because I
Hmm.
tend to hold weight around my belly area. But like I said, I'm at 18% body fat, if the machines are right, but it's still fairly low. But that's where my fat sits. So I didn't used to post any videos of me with a shirt off, and I have nice arms, so I just use that. And then I realized, like, I mean, I'm not overweight. I don't have to look a certain way to train people. I have the experience, and this is my body, and I just have to accept it. And now I've started posting stuff. Now I don't know if people are like, she doesn't have the body, I don't want to work with her. And if that's the case, honestly, I don't care. But I think it's important that we all just put ourselves out there and say this is what, like you said, what a healthy body can also look like.
Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? And I think it's just, I stopped playing that game a long time ago. Like, I never post pictures of my physique. I rarely actually post anything of my self training, because I think for a lot of people, it's not very motivating, right? Like, a lot of people that are reaching out for personal trainers for support, they're so put off and intimidated by the fitness industry that actually, when they see personal trainers with jacked muscles, ripped abs, and doing these kind of brutal workouts, it doesn't motivate them. It just intimidates them even more. And so I, years ago, kind of made an effort. I was like, right, I'm just not going to post the way that I look anymore on social media. If you can scroll through my feed and find any picture of me working out or with my top off, whatever, it just isn't there. I don't think it's helpful. So I think the quicker a lot of coaches can move away from playing that game of trying to impress other coaches and other people within the fitness industry, I think we'd actually start to really support those people that really need our help, that are never going to look like that and probably don't even want to look like that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason I never post workout videos, because
Hmm.
as well, because I'm just like, I train a certain way and it's different from how I would make a client train,
Yeah.
and my shit's repeated over and over and over again. It's not fun to watch.
Yeah. But that's fitness, right? Like, it
Yeah.
isn't. It's actually just like really repetitive and like a little bit dull in a beautiful way. Like, we just need to find those routines and habits that keep us consistent. I think when coaches are posting all these kind of like brutal, exciting, fun workouts that they're constantly changing all the time, it's just not realistic. Like, it's just not the way that people should be approaching health and fitness at all. So yeah, once again, we just need to find our kind of exciting way to put this message across to combat the noise.
Well, on that, there was a post of yours that stood out to me, and it was about how making people hate their bodies is becoming a sales tactic. So,
Hmm.
can you
Hmm.
talk a little bit more about that? Because I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it's so true. The fitness industry thrives on comparison. So if they can make you compare your body to fitness professionals or other people that have done kind of transformations or weight loss challenges, you're much easier to sell to when you are unhappy with the way that your body looks and you are vulnerable. Like, that's when all these coaches will pounce. You'll have so many coaches still that do cold DMing on social media when someone's in a larger body or someone mentions anything about food, and it's just really gross that so much of the fitness industry just preys on those feelings of vulnerability, and that's exactly what that post was. Like, it completely is a sales tactic. There's a reason that coaches constantly post before and after photos on their social media. Like, it's not to really celebrate the client. It might in some instance be a little bit of a celebration of like the hard work, like I get it, but they want you to compare yourself to that image, therefore you are easier to pull into their coaching programs. And it's really frustrating to see, but that's unfortunately what a lot of the fitness industry is propped up by, is just kind of comparison culture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, obviously, transformation pictures do work if you want to make any sales. But the good thing with me is my clients never send pictures, so I have no transformation pictures to use, even if I
It's
wanted
very
to.
funny. Do you know, I have this conversation with people and it always blows their mind. I have many clients who I've trained for like 3, 6, 12 months. I don't know what they look like, right? So a lot of my clients, they prefer to do phone calls. So I literally have had phone calls with these people for 3, 6, 12 months. And I don't, if they passed me on the street, I would have no idea who they are.
Same thing.
Yeah. So like, we're completely shifting the emphasis away. Like, that's not to say you can't have any like body goals. Like, I lift weights to build muscle, so I kind of like feel confident in a t-shirt, right? There's nothing wrong with me saying that. If someone comes to me with a weight loss goal, that's cool. Like, we can have that as your goal, but it's not going to be the only thing that we focus on. So I don't want anyone listening to this think that I'm like against any kind of changing the way that your body looks, because I'm not. Like, it's your body and it's your choice. I just think that the sooner we can shift away from that being the main emphasis of everything that we do, like only eating a certain way to look like that, or only exercising this way to look like that, I just think people will have so much more longevity and sustainability in the way that they eat and exercise if we can shift the focus a bit more.
Yeah, I think it's quite hard to shift people's focus. I mean,
Mm,
there is a lot of information out there. Again, there's people like you and me putting this information out, and like the I'm always trying to advocate that it's about your long-term health. I work with
hmm
women in their 30s to early 40s. You
hmm
know, they've gotten to a point where yes, they do feel uncomfortable in their bodies. Things are changing. They've had babies and their bodies are not responding the same way.
hmm
But whenever I have a call with a client, my first thing is like, what is the final goal? If it's a body goal, this is not going to work.
hmm
You're
hmm
going to constantly be obsessing with that, and you're going
Yep.
to forget all the other progress that you're making, just the small
hmm
things that are happening. And so in that sense, like, it's always about, for me with my clients, it's longevity. You want to become healthier,
hmm
because automatically, if the goal is just to feel good and have energy and be healthy, the body results just come as a
hmm
default, right?
hmm
Without
hmm
you actually having to obsess over it. So getting their minds to shift is it's been a tough one.
It's really difficult, and that's why I don't like it when a lot of coaches who maybe work within the body neutrality, body positivity space, whatever you kind of want to put under, like what caption you want to put it under, they refuse to work with people that have any kind of weight loss goals, and I don't think that's helpful. I would rather work with someone and say, right, yeah, that's cool to have that as a goal, but actually we're going to put the emphasis on you feeling so much better, on you nourishing your body well so that you're more energized, you recover better from your workouts, your sleep improves, like your mental health improves. Like we can do all of these things while still having that as a goal, but not making it the emphasis. And that's when the magic really happens, when people start realizing like, oh, okay, I had that weight loss goal, but actually all these other things like my strength improving, my running times improving, this stuff is actually making me feel so much more happy and fulfilled from the whole training process. Like that's where we should be putting the focus on. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned body positivity. How do you feel about the whole body positivity movement? Do you think it's toxic at this point?
No, I don't. I think there's going to be toxic elements of any kind of movement or group on social media, and you can say that about any camp. I it also just completely depends on how you frame it. I think so many people will frame it in different ways. It's why when I always talk about this stuff, I always kind of put myself in the body neutrality camp, because I know that there's a lot of people that will never love their bodies, and I think as sad as that is, it's just kind of is the fact. Like the way society is, the way that we glorify the slim ideal or having to look a certain way in order to kind of fit into society's what's the right word there, just kind of society's mold, right? Yeah, I just think that there's so many people that are just never going to feel positive about the way their body looks. So actually I think shifting towards the kind of body neutrality where we're almost like a little bit indifferent about our bodies, it allows us to really put the emphasis on exercising better, feeling better, getting stronger. And that's where I'd rather people put the emphasis there. I think the body positivity movement was co-opted by a lot of people who don't really understand the history or the meaning of it. And it has now just become a way for people to kind of look like they're an ally to lots of people within the fitness industry, but they're not. They're using it as a
Mhm.
marketing tool, unfortunately.
Makes sense. But do you think this is different for men and women in terms of, being comfortable with your body? I personally feel like women, I'm a woman and I work with
Mhm,
women. So I personally feel that I think it's a little bit harder for women for us to be like the way we see ourselves. It's not about the society, but
mhm,
how we see ourselves. I think it's harder for us because things are constantly changing with us.
mhm,
As we get older, as we start going towards perimenopause or after we have a kid,
mhm,
our bodies really start to change and they
mhm.
don't look the same way. So I feel this neutrality, it's a lot harder for us to deal with than men.
Yeah, I no, I think you're completely right there. I'm a man within the fitness industry. Like I kind of look how the fitness industry says we're supposed to look. I kind of fit the mold of what we're told fitness should look like. So I always have to kind of accept my privilege in this. But I do think it's way harder for women. The standards and the expectations are so much higher for women that I completely agree with you there. I don't want to kind of completely dismiss the pressures that are on men because they are great still. I work with many guys who have issues with kind of body dysmorphia or kind of disordered eating habits because of all the expectations now put upon men from kind of Marvel movies and kind of men's health magazines and the way celebrities just apparently look naturally but probably aren't natural.
Yeah.
The standards are definitely there for men and it's still a big pressure, but I would agree that it's tougher for women, I think, by quite a long way. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, gravity takes over. I mean, in one sense, like, even as we age, our faces age so differently from
Mhm,
men, and that's another thing we have to then think about.
mhm.
Like, other than just our bodies like starting to drop or become inflamed. As men, I've noticed the way men age is everything just tends to get tighter, and for women,
Yeah,
everything just starts to
do you know
get
what?
looser.
No, and the issue there is, once again, which the fitness industry kind of thrives on as well, is us constantly being told that this ideal we have to constantly strive for, which is an ideal that most people will never achieve. So there's always that element in the back of our minds of like, we have to try really hard to look this certain way, and that's how we're going to be healthy, happy, attractive, whatever. So I do feel like the work that we do is just fighting against that kind of the pressures that the fitness industry and the wellness industry put upon people. It's, yeah, it's a really nuanced topic, but the fitness industry is definitely kind of one of the biggest culprits of making people feel shit about the way that they look, and that feeds into it, unfortunately.
Well, now with so many people turning to social media for fitness advice and that there's so much online coaching now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you think the online coaching space compares to the in-person coaching space right now at this time?
Oh, interesting question. Do you know what? I feel I'm really out of the loop of the in-person coaching space because I've not done it for so for so long. So I'm based in Edinburgh, and I used to do all of mine was in-person coaching, and I've not done in-person coaching now for maybe like 6 years potentially. So I'm probably not the best person to answer with this. I would say the standard. There's more and more coaches every year. The amount of coaches out there putting out information is getting bigger. Therefore, the misinformation is growing with that because of the standard of education or knowledge around certain topics. But I would also say that I think the bar is being raised of what we need to do to in order to be seen as a good coach. So maybe it is, I don't know. That's a really good question. I've not actually thought about that one. That's a good question. I'm going to be thinking about this for the rest of today now.
I asked you this because I've also been out of the online space. I mean,
Mm,
the in-person space. Sorry, since I moved here like 4 years ago. Before that, it was both online and in person.
hmm
But from back in the day, from what I remember, I feel like the online space, if you find the right coach,
hmm
is a little bit better than the
hmm
in person. And I only find that because I feel like in person, also seeing other coaches I used to work with and also myself, they come in for that 1 hour, right? And that's
hmm
that's pretty much it. Maybe three,
Sure.
4 times a week. You don't really get to dive into all the nitty gritties of their
hmm hmm
life, their nutrition, their sleep, their
hmm
life stresses, and all of these things. And so, my personal opinion, since I've been online, I have found that I'm able to help my clients so much more because we have these weekly calls and we're
hmm
touching on every single aspect rather than just come in, we do the session, goodbye.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I definitely prefer online coaching compared to in person. I would probably agree that I probably tend to get better results with my clients who I work with online compared to in person, but maybe that's just because I'm maybe a more experienced coach now than I
Yeah,
was when
that
I
could
was
be the
doing
thing too.
in-person coaching. So I know there's a little bit of bias there. Yeah, I'm also very aware that I'm like, oh, actually, I think the coaching space is getting better, but I realize that I've created this really nice little echo chamber on the internet of really kind of nice supportive coaches that I know are doing really good work. And then sometimes I'll do a post that goes viral and I suddenly see a part of the internet that I didn't know existed, and it's awful. So yeah, it's a really difficult question to answer, but I don't know. In short, I really don't know the answer to it.
Right. Well, coming into sustainable fitness, which is what you preach, which is why I got you on here because I preach the same thing. So I wanted to ask what you think about the all or nothing mindset because I feel like that's such a huge thing and more because of social media
hmm
when it comes to fitness. So how do you help your clients, build more sustainable habits without all the noise that's coming in and having the all or nothing mindset approach?
Yeah, I think the all or nothing mindset is the thing that puts most people off because I think they wait for the time to be perfect or the environment to be perfect or the scenario to be perfect to start, and it's just never going to be. The way that I do that with my clients is I simply just start really small. I kind of say like, right, what's the minimum you would like to be doing each week? And we start from that point. Sometimes people will come to you with these grand ideas of like, right, I want to do 6 workouts a week and I want to meal prep every meal for the week, and if you just throw yourself into the deep end like that, it's just never going to work. So I'd rather we kind of nail like 2 to 3 workouts a week. We build really good habits of like, right, consistent protein intake every day, at least 2 portions of vegetables every meal that you're having there. All these like really boring basics. If we can nail those consistently, like your progress is just going to be so much better long term. And you realize that they actually don't need to be anywhere near what they thought they had to be in order to make progress. And so that's usually the way that I start things, just really small and then build from there.
Yeah, I used to struggle with the all or nothing mindset
Same.
back in the day. Like it was very much like if I'm not doing it, I'm not doing anything at all. If I'm not ticking all the boxes and getting my training done
Mm-hmm.
6 days a week, then I'm a failure, and I just put myself into this whole guilt trip. And until now, I have clients who do the same. So like you said, they come in and say, all right, I want to do 5 workouts a week. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, how many have you been doing? I've been doing 3, but I'm ready to like take it up. Well, you've just started working with me,
Mm-hmm.
so let's stick to your 3. Let's see how long you can do this for, and then maybe in 2 weeks I'll add another one, and habit based. But yeah, the all or nothing mindset I think has held me back for a very very long
Mm-hmm.
time. Personally, if I look back and think about it, I think that mindset did so much more damage to how much progress I made with not just training, but just also my business and everything, because that mindset sticks for everything, right? And it really made me, like, now reflecting back, it really kept me behind for a while. And so I like to kind of give out the message that this is just not the way that it should work. You
Yeah,
have to have balance.
I'm sure many people can relate to that. I know I can, especially. And now my training is so much more relaxed than it used to be. Like I used to be a kind of 5, 6 days a week, but even on that seventh day, I was doing something light, keep my body moving because I got to keep going. Whereas now I do like 3 strength workouts a week as a minimum. I try and hit like a pretty solid step count each day, and then if I've got the time, I throw in an extra 1 or 2 runs a week. And since switching to that, so we had a son 2 years ago, and we have another child on the way, and my schedule now is just like completely different. I actually feel like I'm making as good progress with this kind of really relaxed approach to training as I was when I was going at it 5, 6 days a week. So it's amazing what you can achieve by doing a lot less and giving your body a bit of like time and care.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty relaxed for a bit because I had put a lot of load on my body in September, and then I just took it easy, cut it down to 3 sessions just to
Mm-hmm.
give myself some time. And now I've signed up for a half marathon, so my training is up again. And honestly, I don't feel as healthy. I'm
Yeah.
constantly tired.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
got to get the strength sessions in. I have to get the runs in if I actually want to manage to complete it.
Is this the Valencia half marathon? Is it you're doing or
No, I
no? Okay.
wish. I wish. That was the plan, but I'm number 5,530 on the wait list.
It's hard to get into now, right? It's a very competitive race, both the half and the full marathon,
It's
really
because it's
tough.
flat. That's why. It's
It
the
was the
flat, one of the
first
flattest.
ever marathon I did was the Valencia marathon, and I loved it. Such a great race. Yeah.
But this is why I want to do it because it's completely flat. I think it's a perfect one to start with. But no, I ended up signing up in Budapest because that was the only one available.
I'm sure that'll still be an amazing run though, right?
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
not a runner. I've just started.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, now I'm tired, But at this point, given what I'm doing right now, I kind of have to take the all or nothing approach when it
Hmm.
comes to my training.
Sure.
Otherwise, I'm probably just going to hurt myself
Yeah,
or.
absolutely. Like, there's definitely like periods. So I've done kind of Ironman 70.3 events in the past and marathons and stuff. And there's definitely periods where training cycles do take over your life a little bit, right? If you have any kind of tough or challenging fitness goals that you want to achieve, there's always going to be an element of some things have to give. But I think as long as you look at it as like, right, this is a period for a certain thing I'm going to achieve, and then I move back into more sustainability, it's fine. Like, it's fine as long as you're coming at it from a place of kind of health and enjoyment rather than a punishment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a thing. Before it was like I always had to have something that I'm training really hard for,
Hmm.
with the whole all or nothing approach. Now
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I want to choose one thing, so I'm a little bit more disciplined with my training. But then once that's done, I want to give myself a break and relax, and it's made me feel so much better about the entire process, and I don't feel the pressure because I
Hmm.
always realize like we tend to put so much pressure on ourselves
Hmm.
when nobody's telling us to do this. You're doing it to yourself,
It's kind of the
What is
great
the
thing, is it?
stress?
Like, no one cares other than us. Like, that's the really
Exactly.
funny thing. Yeah, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, so you just feel like shit if you don't do it. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'm trying to adjust my mindset when it comes to that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for trainers who are struggling right now with the pressures of social media, since that is a big thing you're on, or of imposter syndrome, like
Hmm.
I've been doing this for 13 years and I still feel it sometimes.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
would you say to them?
It's a tough one, right? I don't think there is really any like magic answer because I definitely go through waves of feeling slight imposter syndrome or kind of feeling like what I'm putting out there is rubbish and no one really wants to watch it. Like, I don't think you'll ever get to a point where you're always fully happy with it. But what I would say is there's so many people out there creating huge followings that are creating utter crap and scamming people out of their hard-earned money that I think that we kind of have a duty as coaches to put ourselves out there to try and combat it. And that's the way that I always kind of frame it in my head. And you know what? Even if one person watches that video or that piece of content and kind of has a bit of a light bulb moment and you can help them to find a healthier, more sustainable path, then like mission successful, you know. There is no magic answer to this at all. It's simply just keep churning out content. It's really boring. I often speak with coaches who have questions about social media. A lot of them will message me on social media and we have little chats, and I think they expect me to have some magic formula or something, but it's not. I've just been creating content consistently for like 7-8 years, and that's all it is. It's just repetition, repetition, repetition. And you slowly realize that once again, like no one really cares other than you. No one's going to care about your content as much as you. And I quite enjoy that feeling. Like, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at it as something quite positive. And also, content is so disposable nowadays. After about 24 hours, no one's going to watch it anyway. So you might as well just throw it out there and see what happens, because what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah, I agree with that. That is true. But do you think it's easier to be a coach now than when you started back in the day?
Ooh. I think there's more to balance now as a coach, if you want to be a successful coach, than there was. Um, I think the pressures of kind of having to be on social media now adds an extra element. And I think that a lot of people that don't do work through social media don't realize how much time and effort goes into it. Like, as I mentioned at the start of this episode, I spend as much time on social media as I do coaching people now. And like,
Yeah.
I don't directly get money from social media. Like, I don't monetize my channel. I don't do adverts or anything like that. I don't have any supplement links, you know? So it's a big time investment. Like, people reach out to me for coaching because of that. So it's definitely not in vain. But I think so much people don't realize how much goes into things behind the scenes to make a successful coaching business work. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's all your social media has to turn into client conversion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. All right, I want to jump more into now away from the coaches aspect and more into just training regular people. I heard your episode on your podcast about the smartwatches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like people take that way too seriously.
Hmm.
And I have always put out the message like, don't believe your smartwatch. Do not use it as a target
Hmm.
of how much you're burning.
Yeah.
Um, and I really liked all the data that you had put out on all the different watches and how inaccurate they are. So,
Hmm.
what is if you could just give me a little bit of a summary, just for the
Sure.
listeners here, of the smartwatches?
Yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes actually, because I now rely on my watch a lot less than I did before, right? Yeah, the research around smartwatches is really funny. All the things that it kind of encourages us to really focus on, a lot of it doesn't. It's so inaccurate that it's really not worth considering at all. So, in terms of calorie burn, for example, the watch's accuracy is complete rubbish. Like, I just would never ever focus on the calorie burn on your watch. I know that some people like to use a calorie burn, but what I would say is if you do like to use it, simply use it as a barometer in comparison to other workouts of whether, like, how hard you pushed yourself. Like, maybe that's the only way to use it. So, for example, I did this workout last week. Last week I burnt 300 calories. Today I did 320. You probably worked a little bit harder this week than last week, but that number is still really, really inaccurate. So that's one thing that I always like to say, because a lot of people will also link these up to things like MyFitnessPal and calorie tracking apps. Therefore, they're eating back exercise calories, but
Yeah.
the number is so inaccurate that therefore the calories you're eating back is completely wrong. So whatever your fitness goals are in terms of calorie tracking or whatever, it's just not going to be helpful. As soon as you start exercising, the heart rate data from a smartwatch was also really inaccurate. So if you are someone who exercises regularly, like I wear an Apple Watch every day, I really like my smartwatch.
I was like, Garmin.
Yeah, that's fair. I've used Garmin's before. I've recently switched to Apple Watch. Like, I like using them, but I just I'm selective with the data I use. But if you are exercising, I would get yourself an external heart rate strap that kind of just goes across your chest just to more accurately track your heart rate data. Because unfortunately, the watch, as soon as you start getting sweaty and it's moving about a little bit or whatever, it isn't as accurate.
Okay, so those ones work better because I was actually considering it now with my because I do a lot of cycling and a lot of running, and I also do jujitsu. So I've got a lot going on right now with terms of training.
Yeah,
So I was considering it.
I would definitely get one. It's funny, once you start tracking it with a heart rate strap, you realize how inaccurate your watch was when you compare the data. It's quite funny. I really like the polar heart rate straps, even though I had a Garmin. When I did triathlons, I've got triathlon Garmin one, but I really like the polar heart rate straps. I feel like they sit quite comfortably. But yeah, they are really good. There's some you can get on the arms rather than across your chest. They're not as accurate, but they are more accurate than a smartwatch. What else is there? So step count is accurate. That was one thing that they are pretty darn good at, is tracking your step count.
Okay.
So if you use a smartwatch for step count, keep doing it. It's pretty accurate there. The other one that was quite inaccurate was sleep data. There's elements of the sleep data that is better. We recorded this episode a long time ago, so I'm trying to like flick through the filing cabinet of my brain of what the research was. It was really good at recording kind of the deep sleep data, but on the lighter sleep, it was a little bit more inaccurate. So I would also take the sleep data with a slight pinch of salt. I still use mine. I like to look at it every morning and see how my sleep is, and it's usually fairly accurate with how I feel. But yeah, if you feel like the sleep data isn't quite matching up with how your energy levels and stuff are, then it might be a sign that it's just a little bit out for the way that you sleep, and if you're a bit of a mover, you know.
Yeah. I mean, what I find interesting with my Garmin is they have the option of the body battery, right?
Sure.
So, and I've seen it being pretty darn accurate in the
I
sense of,
really liked the body battery on the Garmin. That's the
yeah,
one thing I really miss when I've got the Apple Watch. Yeah.
like I'll wake up one morning and it's just like horrible, like so low, but
Hmm.
I can't figure out why, and then a day later I get sick,
Yeah.
you know? Or if I've had a night of like drinking and I've been out, I'll be completely flatlined and I can feel it, you know? So in that sense, I find I really like looking at that because I know I'm going to get sick
Yeah.
from it.
I agree with that. So on the Apple Watch, they've got like a vitals thing. It records like a few things whilst you sleep, and it always tells me when I'm about to get sick. I think I've been sick like 3 times since I got the Apple Watch, and it's nailed it every single time. And it's also good because I can tell when I'm ready to exercise again, because it's like, oh, your vitals overnight, we're back to normal range, and I'm like, right, I'm good to go. So that's my get ready to go again moment, you know.
But I also feel like sometimes these watches, when we are looking at our body battery or our recovery, it's and you're
Psychological.
feeling good. Yeah, you'd be
Yeah.
like, oh, my watch.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
you know, you're lazy. You don't really feel like training, and then you use your watch as an excuse
Yeah.
to not get up and go do it. And so I think you need to, like you said, take it all with a pinch of salt.
Yeah, I would, and that's the way to do it. Like, use it as like the way I look at my smartwatch, right? I don't live or die by my smartwatch, right? But what I do is I look at it. I'm like, that's really cool data. Anyway, what was I planning to do? You know, like just use it as like to inform
Hmm.
how you're feeling initially. Then you can assess all the other data points that you have of whether you really feel up for working out, or whether you're moving enough, or whether your sleep is good. You know, yeah, don't rely too much on it.
Okay, talking about data accuracy or just accuracy in
Mm,
normal. So I wanted to come to MyFitnessPal.
mm.
Um, you know, they've already got a lot of things pre-logged. Scan barcodes. A lot of companies have their food items on there. How accurate is it?
I mean, I think the disclaimer here is always that food tracking is innately pretty inaccurate anyway. Like, a lot of the research around food tracking shows that people record wrong, quantities are a little bit out on food packaging. There's always like a margin of error there allowed in terms of what they put on packaging. So I think if you go into calorie tracking with the knowledge of, okay, this is not going to be 100% accurate, I think it actually means that you'll approach food tracking in a healthier and more balanced way. So yeah, a lot of the stuff on MyFitnessPal, the food products on MyFitnessPal, people put in themselves. So you have to double check that the numbers are right, because a lot of the time they're not, or they'll put in the calories but not the macronutrients. Therefore, it throws out the balance there. The thing that I hate about MyFitnessPal is the exercise activity. Back to the smartwatch data there. Like, we can't measure calories burned through exercise using smartwatches, which is how everyone is recording their exercise activity. Therefore, I just don't think we should ever be eating back exercise calories. First of all, that number is really inaccurate, but I also think that it creates a really unhealthy relationship with food where you reward yourself with more food because you've exercised. I just don't think it creates a healthy relationship with food or with movement in general. So yeah, with all those things taken into account, like if you want to track calories, that's cool, but just go into it with a relaxed mindset of like, there is a margin of error and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the first thing, like, if anybody wants to learn how to count their calories when they come to me, the first thing when they download MyFitnessPal, I tell them to make sure that your buyback calories are turned
Yeah,
off.
same. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if fat loss is your goal, you don't want to be buying back your calories
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
right? And I think people can get super obsessed with it. And like you said, then you go back into that childhood pattern of you reward yourself when you do something good. And so my fitness pal is just basically reminding you of when your parents, gave you that treat
Yeah.
because you did well on your exams. Yeah, I think that's also it's also very psychologically harming.
hmm
I feel that it is important to understand how to track your food, but I don't think it's something that should be done all the time.
I agree. I think there's a lot of nuance around this topic. I think because of the kind of content I create on social media, I think a lot of people assume that I'm really against all calorie tracking, and I'm not. Like, I have a lot of clients who do use it. It's just you need to assess whether it's good for you as an individual, depending on your relationship with food, your exercise background. There's just so many different factors that will decide whether it's a good thing for you to do. I think for a lot of people, calorie counting is the wrong approach, and I would strongly push back against them wanting to track calories, especially if they've perhaps come from an eating disorder background, for example.
Hmm.
I just don't think anything good will come from calorie tracking.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't keep some sort of food log or some sort of tracking protocol for you monitoring your food intake. There's definitely ways that we can approach it that doesn't involve numbers. There's so many different ways that we can progress in terms of eating a healthy diet that I think a lot of people just see MyFitnessPal as the only option because that's the one that a lot of coaches really talk about all of the
Hmm.
time.
Are there other options that you think are better?
Do you know what? Old school, pen and paper. Like, it sounds really
Yeah,
boring, right? Like, just a note, or even like people don't use pen and paper anymore. Do you know what? I don't even.
I
Oh,
do. I
okay,
do.
that's
I
fine. A
do.
lot of people do. That's good. So, like the note section on your phone, like, don't write down quantities or anything. We just want to spot trends, right? I think for a lot of people that can actually be enough.
Yeah.
Just make kind of a vague food diary. Like, right, for breakfast I had porridge with banana and honey, right? And then lunch I had a salad with whatever. Through doing that, you'll be able to spot trends. You can be like, right, okay, my vegetable intake is not good on most days, therefore I'm going to prioritize that. That's your starting point. I don't think everyone needs to go into the kind of complexities of tracking every single macro for weeks on end for
Yeah.
in order for there to be progress. I just don't think there is. I just don't think it has to be like that.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, in the beginning, when I was started to do the whole nutrition part of it, before I did precision nutrition, I was like, okay, here are your calories, these are your macros, let's count them, let's
Yeah,
do it.
yeah, yeah.
Now I take
I was the same when I first started coaching. Yeah.
now I take a much lighter approach, and like you said, each person is completely different and
hmm
individual. And so for me now, it's like, okay, the option is there. If you
hmm
want to track and you want your results a little
Sure.
bit quicker, and you're comfortable with it, and you've done it
hmm
before, and you don't have any eating disorder
Yeah.
past or anything like that, let's do that. If not, then I always go with the food log,
Yeah.
or take pictures and send them to me so that I can help you with the plating method and things like that. And it works pretty much the same, because also when they count their calories, like you said, it's not accurate, and they're
hmm
probably not even counting it right. So
Agreed.
both
And what I've
approaches work
actually
the same.
sometimes had with some clients as well, where they've come from a background where I'm like, right, this we should absolutely not be tracking calories. Like, it's a really bad thing for you to do, and I don't think you should be doing it. I've worked with them for kind of 3, 6, 12 months, and then they're in a really good place, and they're like, oh, actually, I want to do this for a week just to see what the breakup of my diet is like, and they're actually in a really good place to do that. So once again, it's these kind of groups online that say calorie counting's bad. Like, I just don't think it's helpful. I think it's almost as unhelpful as saying everyone should be calorie counting, right? There's just too much nuance around every area of nutrition for there to be blanket statements like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think every one of us is a unique being on our own, and
hmm
the same approach is not going to work for every single person, and we just have to find what works for us in the
Absolutely.
moment that we are in. What is happening with your life? Like you said, you've got a baby, you have another one on the way. Things are going to change for you. You
Yeah.
might have to change the way you do things. Now
Yeah.
I'm running a lot more. My diet has to change. I need to be
Yeah.
carb loading a lot more, and this is
Yeah.
just me in the time now.
Yeah.
So we're all
Completely.
unique beings.
hmm
All right. Well, if you could leave people with three things that they can take away from this conversation.
Okay, wow, three things. Okay, so ignore any exercise calories ever. Like, don't look at it on a treadmill. Don't look at it on your smartwatch. Don't use it on my fitness pal or anything like that. Get rid of it because it's just not helpful. That would be my one thing. Second thing is the way that our bodies look are just a really bad representation of how fit and healthy we are. So stop glorifying the bodies that we constantly see on fitness social media because most people, even the people that are in these videos and pictures, don't look like that. So if you're constantly comparing yourself to that way, it's just going to have no positive impact there whatsoever. One of the greatest tips that I give to my clients as well is I tell them to diversify their social media feed. If you're constantly only following kind of slim white fitness folk who look how Men's Health and Women's Health magazines say you have to look like, you're constantly going to think that that is the way that you have to look. There are so many brilliant professional athletes, fitness content creators that are in such a wide variety of body sizes. Represent that on your social media feed, and I promise you within a few weeks time you're going to be feeling so much better about things. You'll realize that it doesn't have to look like that at all.
That's a really good one.
Thank you. One more. Oh wow, what should we throw out there? I don't know, my mind's gone blank. I don't know.
That's all right. Well,
No,
we'll
that's
take
okay.
two.
We'll take two. We'll stick
We'll
with
take
two.
two.
Yeah, we'll stick with
We'll
two.
take two. That's fine. Awesome. And and then okay, let's say two things that you would say for coaches who are trying to come into online space right now.
Embrace social media. Don't be scared of it. There are so many people who don't know what they're doing, are really harming people, growing huge followings, and we have to combat that. So please, just put yourself out there on social media. If you have any questions about social media, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to chat about this stuff. I really enjoy chatting about the nuances around social media. So please reach out and let me know. I would also say kind of begrudgingly that as the second point, but it's kind of related to the first point, is I think especially if you want to be an online personal trainer, you need a social media following. You have to be plugging a good amount of time into your social media content. It's not an additional. I think it's a necessity and just has to be there. It's as important as the kind of qualifications and the ongoing knowledge base that you build around exercise and nutrition. You just have to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I have more cameras and tripods around here than anything else.
Same. I'm literally surrounded by kind of microphones here, cables over here, batteries, all sorts. Yeah, it's wild, but it's just part of it, unfortunately.
It is. It is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael. It has been an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed having you on the show, and I'm super excited for this. So, where can people find you if they want to follow your work or learn more from you?
Yeah, so most of my content is on Instagram, but I posted that up onto TikTok and YouTube a little bit too. So that's just my name, Michael Ulloa PT.
I'll put it at the bottom.
Thank you very much. And then, yeah, I've got a fitness podcast called How to Fitness that I run with my podcast co-host, Kate Lyman. And yeah, we just do kind of cool deep dives into different topics like smartwatches, like weight loss medications, intermittent fasting. We're recording another one later today on the research around stretching, because there's a lot of misinformation around stretching too. So
I'm confused now, actually, because I've been doing a lot more mobility and stretching now because of all the running, and I'm doing jiu-jitsu and too many things. And I keep seeing these things. It's like, don't stretch.
Right.
So what do I do?
It's very funny. So we're recording it this afternoon, so I've been delving into the research a lot around it, and there is so much nuance and confusion around the research, even within the research base. It's really conflicting depending on the precise scenario that you use it. So I think, yeah, there's a lot of really cool nuance around stretching. There's a lot of people will be doing a lot of stretching thinking it's doing things when it isn't, I think, is the issue there. So
well, I'm excited for that episode.
Thank you.
I'm definitely gonna watch it, and I need some information on that because I want to make sure I'm doing
this is literally why I did the episode. I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing with stretching, therefore I'm going to learn about it. So here we are.
Awesome. Well, I'll also put the link to your podcast in the show notes.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And thank you guys for watching this week's episode of It's Pretty Simple. If you like this episode, please make sure to hit like and share it with somebody you think will find it helpful. And of course, if you are listening and not following or subscribed, please hit subscribe and follow, because I like making content for you guys. And it really helps to see the numbers go up, so I get some encouragement.
Love it. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.